What we're going to talk about today is how to specifically get more blood flow, more oxygen, and more spinal fluid up to the central nervous system, which is the brain, the brainstem, and the spinal cord. So what we're going to do is talk specifically about the breath and fight or flight mode. So first thing to do is just right now, put your hand on your chest, put your hand on your stomach, and just notice your breath. Just notice. What is rising and falling with your breath? If you notice that when you're breathing, your shoulders go up or your chest comes out, then you're not in a relaxed state. Now, being in a relaxed state is one of the things that helps get enough circulation to the brain. So what we're going to do is we're just going to drop our awareness and our breath into the belly. And we're going to make sure we're not breathing through the chest, but we are expanding the diaphragm and expanding the belly as we inhale and collapsing the belly as we exhale. Now, a very specific thing happens to the pelvic muscles and the pelvic floor while this is happening. So I'll turn sideways so you can kind of see a little bit better, but as I expand the belly and contract the belly, the pelvis moves and it tilts, and I'd have to exaggerate that for you to really see it, but that's almost, if I exaggerate, it's almost like, and it expands forward and then tilts forward. And that movement alone is part of what pumps spinal fluid up to the brain, is that small undulating of the pelvis and the spine. It becomes a pump that helps the spinal fluid move up and down. Now, when we sit for long periods of time, we're breathing shallow, where it's hard to have the pelvis move in that direction, and the spinal fluid isn't moving up and down the spine, and we're getting tension and tightness. The muscles aren't getting to move around. The muscles are getting more tense as they're not getting nourished by blood and spinal fluid movement. So it's up to us to consciously be aware, take time to stop what we're doing at our desk, and move around. And what you want to do is make sure you're moving the pelvis in this direction, this forward and back direction through the breath. And you can totally exaggerate it for faster results and really moving that spinal fluid. So one of the things you can do is Qigong Moves. There's so many Qigong moves that help undulate the spine and move the spinal fluid up. But they're simple. You can just, on the inhale, raise the arms and open this front section of the body. And on the exhale, breathe in, bring in the belly and push out through the back so that you're exaggerating this movement of the spine. Okay, that's one thing that you can do. Additionally, you want to move the spine. Undulate the spine, move it around, dance a little. Now, this might be hard to do at work when you've been sitting for hours. You get up and you just kind of get your coworkers going, come on everybody, let's get up and dance. And if you're not able to get your coworkers to join you and there's no music available because everyone else is on the phone sitting getting a headache, then you step yourself out, go into a stall in the bathroom, go outside and just dance. Because as you move your head this way towards your hip and your head this way towards this hip, you are also helping pump that spinal fluid up and down the spine. And that increases circulation to the brain, which increases oxygen to the brain, and that also increases nutrients to the brain, plus it helps the spinal fluid move. And the spinal fluid comes up and it soothes and cools off the brain. Your brain might be getting too hot at work from working too much. Your brain is working when you're on the phone or you're on your computer and all these neurons are firing, and your brain is an electrical system with lots of little electrons firing, just like hot wires. That can heat up with too much activity. So the spinal fluid and all of that oxygen and movement is going to cool down the brain, because that's one of the things the spinal fluid does. As it comes up, it soothes and it cools down your hot brain. So you've got to move the spine. You've got, even if you're sitting in your chair and you just roll the shoulders and you kind of move side to side in your chair, so that you are getting that movement of the spine, relaxing those muscles so they can nourish the brain. Now, the blood can nourish the brain. Now, if you're in your chair and your muscles are getting very tense and they're getting very tight, that is going to further impede the flow. So what you want to do is, on every exhale, you're going to feel like you're melting in the sun, like an ice cream cone. Just on each exhale, you're going to let the muscles drop a little more. And you probably want to do this after you've done the undulation, because now you've stimulated lots of blood and spinal fluid that nourishes all the nerves. After you've nourished all the nerves and increased that circulation, then you're going to relax those muscles intentionally. You're just going to feel them with each breath just come down another notch, and another notch, and another notch each time you exhale. And another thing that's very valuable is, on those exhales, let out more carbon dioxide than you breathed in oxygen. Because we tend to get a buildup in the lungs and in the blood of a little extra carbon dioxide when we're breathing shallow. So we want to let a nice big sigh. We breathe in. Now I breathed out a lot of carbon dioxide that might have built up in my lungs. I released, and the body knows. As soon as you do that, it knows, oh, everything is well. We don't have any problems here. There's nothing to get stressed about. You do several of those breaths. That's why they say take 3 deep breaths. It's because as you sigh and release all that tension and let those muscles drop, it triggers the autonomic nervous system to go into a state of rest and digest.